All right, I'm gonna do this again. I actually already did a mock draft before, but as soon as I did it, the Orlando Brown trade went in and ruined my whole draft. So I'm gonna go ahead and do it again. I don't have it saved or anything like that, so I'm not gonna make the exact same picks. I'm just gonna do how I'm feeling. And that one, I gotta make sure it's recording. That one trade is gonna honestly mix up a couple things, so it'll be different no matter if I tried to make it the exact same or not. But I'm gonna do a 2-rounder. It's gonna be 2 videos. The second round's obviously gonna go a lot faster than the first round because I'm probably not gonna make many trades or anything in the second round. At least I don't think I will. I am a maniac, so I might end up doing it. First pick is really one of the only picks in the entire draft that's a no-brainer. That's Trevor Lawrence. Don't really need to take too much time on that, unless Urban Meyer has some deep affiliation with Justin Fields and he really wants Justin Fields instead. But I doubt he'll do that. You got to take the best quarterback available. You can't let personal relationships decide which pick that you make. I'm going to try and do the draft as much as I can how I feel the team is going to draft, because I have a habit of being like, this is what I would do. And then it's the exact wrong thing that's going to happen, because let's just be honest, some of the people, they have their guy. They're not drafting for positional need or anything like that how I would draft. They have their guy, and if that guy's available, then they're going to take that guy. Because they do the scouting and everything. I don't do the scouting, so naturally our picks are probably going to be different. But I think the Jets are probably going to go Zach Wilson here. For a while, I had no idea why the 49ers would take Mac Jones over Justin Fields at 3, and they still might not. But I'm starting to believe it a little bit more because I've just been hearing this dude is like a savant and he's the smartest quarterback they've ever seen and all this stuff, and he just picks everything up immediately and has a photographic memory and all this stuff. So if he truly is a savant and he can sit under Jimmy G for a full year, maybe he will be able to develop as a pretty good quarterback. Right now, I don't see it. I don't see the hype around him, but I also don't see him as a savant. I just look purely at his quarterback talent. And if there wasn't such a massive drop-off between, if you don't get one of these 5 quarterbacks, then look at the drop-off here. I don't believe any of these quarterbacks are franchise quarterbacks by any means. Kyle Trask in maybe a couple of years could be something pretty decent. But if it wasn't like that, I honestly believe Mac Jones could fall to the second, and I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think of him as a top 3 pick whatsoever, but I'm going to say that the 49ers do draft Mac Jones. I'm starting to believe him a little bit more. At first, I was like, yeah, that's not happening at all. They're going to take Justin Fields. But the more I'm reading up on it, the more it seems like they're actually going to take Mac Jones at 3. So, like I said, I'm going to draft how I feel they're going to draft and not what I would do. The Falcons, I've seen a lot of people take Kyle Pitts here. I'm not really buying it. I think this is a really good position for the Falcons to trade back and get some more picks in this year's or next year's draft. So I think right here is where I think obviously it's just going to be a team that goes forward in the draft to get their quarterback, and I think the Broncos are going to be that team. Look there, they got it right there for me. Didn't even have to do it. I think that's probably going to be the trade. I'm just going to force it to happen. I'm not going to try and do anything crazy. I know that's not a realistic trade whatsoever. Just swap first round picks. but I'm just making the trades happen. I'm not trying to make them realistic. So I think the Broncos take their quarterback right here with Justin Fields. I don't see him taking Trey Lance. It doesn't really make any sense for me. They don't really have a veteran QB to teach Trey Lance the ropes, to help his mechanics or anything like that. For him to sit an entire year and learn, Drew Lock is not the guy I want to learn from. So it really doesn't make any sense to me that they would take Trey Lance, because Trey Lance is not by any means ready to start right now. He needs to sit an entire year before he can come in, because he has some mechanical issues. He has some accuracy issues. His footwork's pretty bad. He just needs to learn. He's not a bad quarterback by any means, but he needs to learn. He's not somebody that you can just throw in there and just hope he turns your franchise around like Justin Herbert did last year. He's not Justin Herbert, let's just put it that way. For the Bengals, it could really go between two picks for me, Penei Sewell or Jamar Chase. For me, just because I'm a maniac, I would take Jamar Chase and try and get a tackle later on in the draft. The tackle talent's pretty damn deep, but then again, so is the wide receiver talent. But in my opinion, there's a higher drop-off from Jamar Chase to the rest of the wide receivers than it would be from someone like Penei Sewell to like Rashawn Slater. So if I were them, I would get Jamar Chase. You just lost A.J. Green, even though A.J. Green isn't the A.J. Green that we've been used to. So he could complement Tyler Boyd really well, get that offense going with Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase. That's a deadly, deadly offense. But you got to protect your franchise. You got to protect your investment. And I say they take Penei Sewell, which is a great, smart pick, honestly. I see nothing wrong with taking Penei Sewell right there instead of someone like Jamar Chase. It makes perfect sense to protect your franchise, and he was just knocked out for the rest of the season last year, so you don't want that to happen again. Definitely not. The Dolphins right here, it might just be a matter of taking the best player available, because they do have offensive line needs pretty badly. But I don't really see them taking Rashawn Slater at 6. I think you just take the best player available at this point, give Tua another weapon, and take Jamar Chase right here, especially because you know the Lions are going to take him right away if you don't take him. So that'd just be a no-brainer pick for the Lions. They need so many wide receivers. I wouldn't even be surprised if the Lions double down on wide receivers with their first 2 picks. Because they lost Kenny Golladay, they lost Marvin Jones, they lost Danny Amendola, they lost Mohamed Sanu, even though that's not really that big of a deal. But unless you think Quintez Cephas is the next Megatron, which, spoiler alert, he's not, I feel like you kind of just have to take a wide receiver at this point. And the Lions love taking early wide receivers anyway, so it would go right along with what they usually do anyway. It's just a matter of if you take Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle. And for me, I would take Devontae Smith. I know he weighed in at 160, and that's tiny, but I know for a fact they'll have him pack on at least a little bit of weight, get back to that weight that he was with Alabama. And I think he's just more of a number 1 wide receiver than someone like Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle is great. He's explosive. He'll make plays happen. But I think an offense, to really get the best out of him, I think you have to kind of have that stereotypical number 1 wide receiver, so that Jalen Waddle can take the pressure off of that wide receiver and get his big plays in. But if Jalen Waddle is your number 1 wide receiver, I don't think that's going to work that well for him. The only real small, explosive wide receiver that works for is Tyreek Hill, and that's just because, I mean, he's a freak of nature, and so is Patrick Mahomes, so it works out. So I think the Lions take Devontae Smith right here. If you're Carolina, there's only 2 picks here, or there's only 2 options here. You take Rashawn Slater, which I would love for them to do. Carolina is actually my favorite team, so I would love for them to take Rashawn Slater right here. But I think we trade this pick. I think we trade back so that someone can come up and take Trey Lance. Because there still is a chance that Carolina would take Trey Lance. I don't think we will, personally. I don't want us to either. I don't want us to take Trey Lance. So I think if anybody's going to trade up, this is going to be the pick to trade up and get Trey Lance. And if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be the Washington football team, aka whatever their name might be this year. I've seen that they had a poll for their names. Most of the names are alright. Some of the names are horrendous. But just going to make that happen. We already lost multiple picks in next year's draft, so it would be really smart if we could trade this pick and potentially get a round 1 or a round 2 in next year's draft from Washington. We already have ties with Washington, obviously, with Ron Rivera. If you've paid attention to their free agent pickups, most of their free agent pickups are just people that we've dropped. They're essentially how the Bills were a couple of years ago when we got rid of Sean McDermott and he became the head coach of the Bills. He just took every single player that was on our team with him. And it seems like that's kind of what the Redskins are doing as well. They already have that familiarity with some of the players, so they're just getting them right on their team as well. So I feel like if anyone's going to trade up for a quarterback that's not at all ready to start and end up starting him by week 4 and making him lose his confidence, it's going to be the Washington football team. They are the football team, though. All the other teams are just posers. They're the ones. So that makes sense to me. That's what I would do if I was Carolina, even though I said I'm not going to draft according to what I would do. But I did it anyway because I'm a liar. So I think this is good for the Falcons. I think at this point you can kind of justify taking a corner this high. The Falcons secondary is horrendous. You don't take a safety at this high. The only safety that's probably going to go in the first round is Trayvon. So, but someone like Patrick Surtain or Jace Horn, honestly, you can justify taking him this early. If you really, really believe that Caleb Farley is going to stay healthy, Caleb Farley is also a pretty high first-round talent at corner, but with the injury concerns, I wouldn't take Caleb Farley anytime soon. So I'm going to say the Falcons take Patrick Surtain right here, right before the Cowboys, because you know the Cowboys are going to get him next. Or at least they should. You never really know what the Cowboys are going to do. I really honestly wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys take Kyle Pitts here. It would be wild if they do. They'd have one of the best offenses on paper that I've ever seen in my entire life if they do take Kyle Pitts, but I can't have that happen. I can't have the Cowboys really take Kyle Pitts over trying to bolster that horrendous defense. I mean, if anyone watched the season last year, the Cowboys gave up 35 points a game, which that's probably not correct. I didn't do any research on that, but it's horrendous. It was horrendous. Everyone saw it was horrendous. It was statistically one of the worst defenses of all time, maybe even the worst defense of all time. So I'd say I really hope the Cowboys are smart with this pick. You don't take edge this early, or at least I wouldn't think you would take edge this early. I think if you're the Cowboys, you have to take Jace Horn at this pick. Or at least you should. The Giants. I know it says that tackle is a huge need for them, but the Giants just drafted 2 tackles in last year's draft with Andrew Thomas and Matt Pert, I believe. And I honestly believe in Matt Pert and Andrew Thomas. I think they can both be very good tackles. They have a decent offensive line. I think it'll develop into a decent offensive line. I've done multiple mock drafts, just kind of messing around. I didn't make them videos or anything like that. And I've had them taking Rashawn Slater here. You know, I've messed around with some of their picks. I even had them taking Micah Parsons here at one point, even though to me that's very early for someone who isn't really even a middle linebacker. He doesn't really do anything a middle linebacker does. He's just raw athleticism. So, if I'm the Giants, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do here. You can take Jalen Waddle if you're really trying to give Daniel Jones those weapons just one more try. Because, I mean, Daniel Jones, I feel like he's got to be on his way out pretty soon if he doesn't start putting up some numbers. Because if you're a Giants fan, you either still believe that he's the second coming or that he is absolutely horrendous. There's almost no in between. So I think that is probably what they're going to do. If they don't do it, the Eagles could easily take their guy right after them at 12. They could easily go Jalen Waddle. The Patriots could easily take Jalen Waddle. They could move up and take him. The Cardinals could move up and take him. So if I'm the Giants and I'm trying to really bolster up that offense, this is where I take Jalen Waddle. Right there at 11. The Eagles, I feel like even if the Giants didn't take Jalen Waddle right there, the Eagles still wouldn't take him because that's just an Eagles thing to do. Every year they take a wide receiver where everyone's just like, what? Why did you take that wide receiver instead? And it's not even like they take horrendous wide receivers. They just take wide receivers that should not have been taken right there, like with J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. And last year they didn't draft Justin Jefferson, and everyone was just like, what are you doing? Why? So with the Eagles, I think you kind of have to take a wide receiver here. You could go corner, but the two big boys are gone. Greg Newsom's great. I love Greg Newsome. Asante Samuel's great. Javon Holland's great. Ifiatu, Eric Stokes, they're all great corners, but this is a little too early for half of them, or most of them. Caleb Farley, if you really, really want to take that chance, but I think you can wait on Caleb Farley because he'll drop because of all his injury concerns. So, if I'm the Eagles, I take Rashad Bateman here. I think that's your number one wide receiver right there. I think he could fill that number one wide receiver role. With the other wide receivers, they're just not going to be that number one guy. Elijah Moore, Rondale Moore, Kadarius Toney, they're all not going to be that number one wide receiver. Kadarius Toney's a slot guy. Rondale Moore's 5'7". Elijah Moore's tiny as well. And Terrace Marshall Jr. just isn't as good as Rashad Bateman. So the Chargers pick is a very interesting pick because if I'm the Chargers, I have two choices. I either get Kyle Pitts to replace Hunter Henry and just keep on making just a ridiculous offense and score 35 points a game, or obviously get that offensive tackle position and protect your investment. Which with either one, very smart play. If they pick Rashawn Slater here, don't blame him whatsoever. That's a great pick. Christian Darrisaw he played left tackle his entire career, so he's even more of a left tackle than Rashawn Slater is. So also a great pick right there for them. But this Kyle Pitts pick right here is just juicy. It's a real juicy one. I don't know if you can pass it up. He's a once-in-a-lifetime tight end talent. He's a once-in-a-lifetime athlete. And you do need a tight end. They got Jared Cook, but that's just a one-year Band-Aid. Jared Cook is not going to put up the potential Kyle Pitts numbers. And I'm going to make him do it because I have the mouse. I'm making him pick Kyle Pitts at 13. Because you can wait on tackles and still get some quality tackles later in the second round. Someone like Walker Little, Dillon, maybe even Alex Leatherwood, Carmen Jackson, Liam Eichenberg, Jalen Mayfield. All these guys are probably going to be available in the second round for you to take. So those are some quality tackles that you can still take. But the drop-off from Kyle Pitts to Pat is not Kyle Pitts. None of these guys are Kyle Pitts. There is no other Kyle Pitts. So you either take Kyle Pitts as your tight end pick, or, I mean, that's really it. There's such a huge drop-off. You kind of got to get your guy early, especially with people potentially going to be taking him at 4, like the Falcons. I feel like you kind of have to take him right there. The Vikings also need a lot. I looked at their depth chart. They need a tackle, they need a guard, they need edge pretty desperately. They had no pass rush last year, and they got rid of Yannick Ngakoue. All they have is Danielle Hunter. I think if you're the Vikings, it'd be really smart to get Rashawn Slater right here. It'd also be really smart to take Christian Darrisaw once again. It seems like every single team needs a tackle. So I really wouldn't doubt if all of them were gone by now. But they also have the potential to get Jalen Phillips right here if you really want to take that chance. But I'm going to take the smart pick here for him. I'm going to take Rashawn Slater at 14 for him. The Patriots, not only do I not think that they're going to trade up, I think they're actually going to trade back. Even though they are in a pretty aggressive win now sort of mode. A lot of these free agent pickups, they did sign a good amount of them to multiple year deals, pretty big deals. But, I mean, if you're going to move up, it's going to be for Jalen Waddle. It's going to be for Trey Lance. If you really think that Trey Lance is the guy, which I don't think they do, and I don't either, especially with the Jordan Love talks, which I don't even know if those are real or not. But if they could make that happen, that's just a typical Patriots steal right there. They always just steal players. So I think they might trade back this pick. It's just a matter of who's going to trade up and for who. Maybe Micah Parsons. Maybe somebody really loves Micah Parsons and they trade up and take him. Maybe a corner. Because if I were the Cardinals, I would definitely take a corner next pick. Sorry, I know that was loud. It was digging in me. Maybe you move up and take an edge rusher. If you really believe in Kwity Paye or Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips is clearly the best edge talent in this year's draft, but he's one concussion away from never playing football again. So that's just really sketchy. I could see somebody taking a chance on him within the top, 20 picks. But I could also see him drop into like the third round because nobody wants to take that chance on somebody that is one concussion away from never playing again, and that's pretty inevitable in the NFL. You're gonna get concussions at some point. My boy Luke Kuechly had to tap out a lot sooner than everybody wanted him to. R.I.P. Luke Kuechly. I'm going on a rant. What do the Patriots do? They don't need linebacker. They don't need defensive tackle. They don't need offensive tackle or really any sort of offensive lineman. They made a lot of moves in free agency. Dag nabbit player. What are we doing? What are we doing here, Patriots? You always pick someone super strange that people don't think you're going to pick. So who are you going to pick? What are we doing here, boys? I might have them take Elijah Moore here. That's something that I haven't done in any of my mock drafts. I haven't had them taking Elijah Moore or anything like that. But I might have them taking Elijah Moore here. Man, what are the Patriots going to do? Actually, I didn't even think about this until right now. Pat Chung retired. I'm going to have him taking Trayvon at 15. I know that might be a little bit of a stretch, but we always see stretches every year in the first round. We're probably going to see somebody take Jalen Mayfield in the first round or something crazy when you have all these tackles right here. I've seen some mocks have him in there. There's always just teams that have that guy. And people that do mock drafts like me, we never think about it because, they're not even really like that much on the radar. They just have that guy, and when it gets to their pick, they're just like, I'm taking him no matter what. So, if I'm the Cardinals, it's a no-brainer. I take a corner here. Their corner depth chart is not the greatest. I know they have Robert Alford and they got Malcolm Butler, but Malcolm Butler is not very good anymore, like at all, and he's definitely not going to fill that Patrick Peterson role. He's completely different. He's not a press man coverage guy like Pat Pete. I think you got to take someone that could potentially fill that role, and you take a chance and take Caleb Farley right here. I know he's an injury risk, but out of the tight ends available, he's the best talent. Not by that much. Greg Newsome is great. Asante Samuel Jr. is great. Ifeatu is great. I think Eric Stokes is going to be great. Even someone like Tyson Campbell. I think Tyson Campbell has a chance to be really good. He's not going to be drafted this early by any means, but I think he's got a chance to be very, very good. The Raiders, just like everybody else, the Raiders need offensive line very, very badly. They need a tackle, they need a center, but they also need a defensive tackle. They also need guard. They need everything. The Raiders are in rough shape, offensive line wise. They also need a linebacker too. So I wouldn't doubt if they took someone like J.O.K. right here. I don't think they take Micah Parsons. That doesn't really make sense to me personally. But I say I don't think they need safety as bad as it's saying they do. Jonathan Abrams is a stud. They got Carl Joseph back, even though Carl Joseph isn't anything super, super special. But I think they're fine on safety right now. Their corners could get better, but I don't think they take Greg Newsome or Asante Samuel right now. They have a habit of taking only big school people, as of lately at least. So I could see them taking Christian Barmore right here. They love their Alabama boys. They love their Clemson boys. They love big school boys. But I don't know. They might take Elijah Vera Tucker here because that's their guard. He'll be a much better guard than he will a tackle, at least at first in his career. I would have him listed as a guard, honestly, but they have him listed as a tackle. They're not going to take Landon Dickerson this early, I wouldn't think. Actually, they could. He is an Alabama boy. Creed Humphrey's another guy they could go. Man, I really wouldn't doubt, now that I'm thinking about it, I really wouldn't doubt if they took someone like Landon Dickerson. But I'm going to have them taking Christian Barmore at 17. They love their Alabama boys. They need a defensive tackle. And there's a pretty steep drop-off at defensive tackle in this year's draft. It's essentially the only two that would ever get taken in the first round is Christian Barmore, and if you really, really believe in Levi. If Levi is just your guy 100% and you don't care where, if he's available, he's your guy and you're taking him, then he's the only other one I could see getting taken in the second round. I think he's better than Alim. If I'm the Dolphins, I passed up offensive line earlier, and I'm not going to do it again. I'm taking Elijah Vera Tucker if I'm the Dolphins here. I know that was a pretty quick one. Carolina, we need a good amount. Not going to lie. We need a very good amount. I would not be mad if we took Greg Newsome here. It would make perfect sense, but I think we can wait on corners. And I think you have to take that offensive lineman. We haven't had an offensive line in so long. It's been a long time. Even the Super Bowl offensive line wasn't even that incredible. I think you take Christian Darrisaw here. You get your left tackle of the future. We re-signed Taylor Moton, but he's a right tackle. He's not going to be the left tackle. I think Christian Darrisaw is the pick that we should have, and to get him at 19 is actually pretty incredible. Maybe I secretly made it happen that way. Who knows? I'm probably super biased, but the Bears need a lot, as do most people. The Bears need a lot. They need a lot of offensive line help. They need a QB, obviously, but you're not taking one this early. And they definitely need wide receiver help as well. Anthony Miller has not turned out to be the guy that they wanted him to. Allen Robinson is on franchise tag. I'd bet a lot of money that he is gone next year. He probably wants to actually play with a quarterback for the first time in his career. So the Elijah Moore pick would make sense here, but I think Darnell Mooney, if you really, really think he's the guy that's going to take that role, then you pick Elijah Moore here. But I would say you take Terrace Marshall if you're the Bears. I think Terrace Marshall could fill that Allen Robinson role more than someone like Darnell Mooney can, even though Darnell Mooney is turning out to be pretty solid. He kind of came out of nowhere for me, at least. And I think the Colts, I know you got to get an offensive lineman to take Anthony Costanzo's role. He just retired, so Tevin Jenkins, Samuel Cosme, something like that. I could see them doing that, but they also really need edge, and there's been no edge picks so far. But the edge is coming. The edge is coming. Tennessee's next. So the edge is definitely going to be coming pretty soon. I could see them going offensive tackle here. I don't think you go wide receiver right here if you're the Colts. I can't see them really getting Elijah Moore right now. I think you got to fill that Anthony Costanzo role. You got to protect the glass man himself. Paper Bones, Carson Wentz, you got to get that running game going. So I'm going to say they take Tevin Jenkins here. He's a mean son of a bitch. I would have also really liked if Carolina got Tevin Jenkins right here. Either one of them is fine with me. Tennessee, it would make a lot of sense for Tennessee to get Elijah Moore right here as well. You gotta fill that void so your offense isn't literally just Derrick Henry or AJ Brown every single play. Jonnu Smith's gone. I know they have Anthony Fursker, but Anthony Fursker isn't going to be putting up Jonnu Smith numbers. So they have such a two-dimensional offense right now. They've got to replace Corey Davis. He just went to the Jets, which is pretty good news for the Jets, honestly. Last year, other than Jamison Crowder for a couple games, they're just throwing it to practice squad wide receivers and seeing who gets to drop it next. So if I'm Tennessee, I'm either taking Elijah Moore here or I'm fixing that horrible edge rush. They do not have edge rush as a need. That is wild. They need edge pretty badly. They don't need corner as badly, and they don't need offensive line as badly either. So if I'm Tennessee, I'm either taking the risk and getting Jalen Phillips, getting the best talent-wise edge rusher in the draft, or I'm getting Kwity Paye. I'm going to do it. I'm going to have them taking Jalen Phillips right there, and I'm going to unapologetically have them take Jalen Phillips right there. He's solid here first. The Jets could easily go edge. I really, really wouldn't blame them if they went edge and got Kwity Paye, even Jason away. But their corners are so bad. It was really, really bad. Like, insanely bad. Their whole defense was pretty damn bad last year, so I'm going to have them taking Greg Newsome right here. That's what they need to do. They need to grow up. Just take the picks that are given to you. Just take them. If I'm the Steelers, they do need running back, even though it says they don't, which is pretty wild. I don't understand that either. But it's too early for running back. The Dolphins need a running back very badly too, and it's too early to take a running back. You have very quality running backs to take, and you can easily get them in the second round. Javonte Williams, Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, even Michael Carter. Michael Carter is somebody that could sneak up on people. Trey Sermon, I mean, he's someone that might go in like the third round, honestly. I don't see anyone taking him this quickly. Obviously not this quickly, but I don't even see anyone taking him in the second round. But you have some quality running backs that you can get in the second round. Even if somebody takes Najee Harris or something before you get him, you're still most likely going to have Travis or Javonte Williams available. You'll definitely have Michael Carter available. So you can get your running back. I think right now the Steelers have to fix that offensive line. They kind of got rid of everybody. So if I'm the Steelers, I'm going tackle or center here. But I don't see them going Creed Humphrey. I don't see them going Landon Dickerson. I think you go tackle here if you're the Steelers. And the tackle that I would pick would be Samuel Cosmi. So I'm going to take Samuel Cosmi for the Steelers at 24. And I don't care what nobody says about it. Jacksonville needs safety pretty bad. Jacksonville, obviously, they got their quarterback. They also do really need a tight end. They got rid of like 2 or 3 of their tight ends. But it's way too early for Pat, especially with all these quality players still on the board. Yeah, I mean, Micah Parsons, JOK is still on the board. There just isn't a fit for Micah Parsons in any of these picks unless someone trades out of their pick and someone moves up to get Micah Parsons. There's just nobody that should take Micah Parsons right now, in my humble opinion. He's either going to get taken very, very, very early and I'll just be dumb and he'll get taken by like the Giants or somebody at 11, or he's going to drop. I mean, there's nobody else that really needs a linebacker like Micah Parsons this desperately. So if I'm the Jags, I mean, the Jags also need linebacker. I know I just said all that stuff, but the Jags do need linebacker pretty bad. The only one they have on their entire team is Myles Jack. So you do need linebacker if you're the Jags. You need corner if you're the Jags. All right, scratch everything I just said. The Jags take Micah Parsons right here. Out of everybody, he's the only team that I can see taking him. Green Bay needs a linebacker pretty badly, but I don't think they take Micah Parsons. The Saints need linebacker, kind of, not as bad as corner. The Ravens also need a linebacker, but they have some other things they need to do. If I'm the Browns don't really need edge as badly, unless they just go edge of the future. I forget how long the contract was with Jadeveon Clowney, but I believe in Jadeveon Clowney. I think he can have a pretty good pass rush type of year, sort of like the Bud Dupree year with the Steelers that just kind of came out of nowhere. It helps when you have another dominant person getting to the quarterback at all times. That frees space for you as well because they have to concentrate on him so much. So with Myles Garrett coming in off the other edge, I think that can free some space for Jadeveon Clowney to get there. It was the same as the Steelers. The Steelers had such a good pass rush. It was like, who do you really focus on? I mean, you're not going to focus on Bud Dupree, I'll tell you that much. So I think Bud Dupree's, his numbers are going to drop back down to normal. I don't think he's going to have another season like last year. But I think Jadeveon Clowney can have a solid season last year. It was just that he was on the Seahawks with absolutely no pass rush. Jamal Adams was their pass rush, and Tennessee's pass rush was completely anemic. It's horrendous. So, I mean, there's just not really much that you could do as the only pass rush on the entire team. So with the Browns are another team that don't really have that many needs coming into the draft. They're a pretty solid team, honestly. This is a team that could take Levi easily. I could see them taking Levi. They could also take JOK, but they don't exactly need JOK that badly. They could take their edge of the future, which they could easily take the edge of the future. I think that might be what they do, honestly. Whether it's Kwity Paye or Jason Owe. Or Azeez Ojulari, honestly. Azeez could easily get taken in the first round with someone like the Bills or something later on. I'm going to have him taken. I'm going to take Kwity Paye for the Browns at 26. Now here's the Ravens. This is where it gets interesting. This is where it definitely gets interesting. If I'm the Ravens, my thought process is if I'm going to get my wide receiver, I've got to get him now because the Saints and the Packers are next, even though the Packers aren't going to take wide receiver because they hate taking wide receiver talent and they hate Aaron Rodgers. So If I'm them, I'm getting my wide receiver before the Saints could take somebody, because the Saints could easily take Elijah Moore or Kadarius Toney or something like that next pick. I don't have to worry about them getting the offensive lineman. I know they have to replace Orlando Brown now. They also need a center, so their offensive line could use some work. But I think you can wait until your next pick, because none of these picks are going to pick a tackle. So I think you can wait until next pick, at least if you're the Ravens, to get your left tackle to try and replace Orlando. So if I'm the Ravens, I'm taking Kadarius Toney here. I'm getting my wide receiver before the Saints or the Packers can get him. And now, if you're the Saints, unless you're taking Elijah Moore, I'm changing my tone. I'm changing it to either get JOK, maybe Zaven Collins, maybe even Jamin Davis. But if I'm the Saints, I'm getting that corner. I'm getting Asante Samuel if I'm the Saints here. Now for the Packers, I don't see the corner need as much for them. They still have Jair. They re-signed Kevin King. I know he played horrible versus the Buccaneers, but Kevin King is honestly a fairly solid corner. So I wouldn't doubt if they went corner here, but I feel like it'd be a slight stretch for these corners right now. Just a slight stretch. Not really, like if they pick someone like Afiatu right here, it wouldn't be that crazy. If they pick Jevon Holland, it wouldn't be that crazy. Eric Stokes. But I think you can wait on corner right here. You have no other linebacker. I feel like you have to take linebacker if you're Green Bay here, whether it's JOK or Jamin Davis or Zaven Collins. I feel like you have to take linebacker if you're Green Bay. You also do need a center, even though it doesn't say it on here that you need a center, but you do need a center pretty badly. So if they took Landon Dickerson or Creed Humphrey, that would also make perfect sense. But I'm taking JOK here. He's the best player on the board right now, and it's honestly amazing that he's lasted this long. With the Bills, I think it's kind of a no-brainer for the Bills, honestly. You have to go edge if you're the Bills. You can go Levi right here, but I don't see them going Levi. I think you have to go edge right here. And I'm going to have them... with someone like the Bills, I could see them taking any of these four. I could see them taking Gregory Rousseau, even though I wouldn't want to take Gregory Rousseau in the first. I could see them taking Boogie Basham a little early. Joseph Asai is great. I think his ADP is a little high. I think he's better than Peyton Turner and Ronnie Perkins. I'm going to have the Bills taking Jason away right here. And then with Baltimore, now you can get your tackle or you can get your center with Landon Dickerson. Landon Dickerson is quality. Creed Humphrey is also very, very quality. So the Ravens, they need a center badly. And they need their offensive tackle now badly. Who they would get, I'm not positive. Probably, if I were going to guess, I would say Alex Leatherwood. But I don't know if they get tackle right here, honestly. I don't know if they get tackle. I wouldn't go edge if I were them. Linebacker would also be pretty tempting as well. They need a linebacker. So if they went someone like Jamin Davis or Zaven Collins, I could see them 100% doing that as well. but I think you kind of have to get that offensive line, especially since you just got your wide receiver. So I'm actually not going to take tackle here, and I'm going to get Landon Dickerson if I'm them. And the Buccaneers are probably the only team in the draft that honestly they have no holes to fill. Like, if you really want to get super technical, you could be like, they lost Antonio Brown. They need another receiver to replace Antonio Brown. Not really. Not this year, at least. It's not like their offense just isn't going to work anymore. Like, I know they need running back a little later. You don't really need QB. You don't really need safety either. This is a pick that could easily get traded, and I could definitely see it get traded, honestly. I don't think anyone would trade up for a corner. Someone could trade up for a linebacker. Someone could trade up for a linebacker that they probably really wanted to take, but they didn't. Someone could trade up for edge. Someone could trade up for a tackle that they really love. Maybe even Elijah Moore, but I don't know who would trade up for Elijah Moore unless they're going to double down. The Eagles could double down. The Lions could double down. I don't see San Francisco trading up for a wide receiver. Maybe the Patriots. That's a huge jump. It's a very big jump for the Patriots. The Jaguars, the wide receiver isn't an insane need for them, honestly. They just got Marvin Jones. They have Laviska Shenault. They have DJ Chark. Like, they have fairly quality wide receivers. They need a tight end horribly. But if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do not trade this pick, because I don't know of any suitors, they go Levi here if I'm them, because Ndamukong Suh's not going to be there forever. So if I'm them, I'm going Levi. But I'm trying to think if anyone would move up to take an edge rusher like Aziz or maybe even Gregory Rousseau right here. The Dolphins need edge as well. I didn't take edge with the Dolphins earlier, did I? No, I got Elijah Vera Tucker. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if someone really moves up for edge, because, I mean, anyone who would move up for edge, they could potentially get them right here anyway. Those would be some of the only ones that I would even consider moving up. But Elijah Moore, I feel like Elijah Moore is that guy. He's that guy that if someone really loves Elijah Moore, they're moving up and taking him right here. But I can't see a fit. I can't see anyone really doing it that has a desperate need that's also pretty close to 32, that they could just make that trade and not destroy the rest of their draft. So even though I think they probably will trade out of this pick, I'm going to have them picking Levi. And that's going to be the end of my round one. I'll probably do round two later and just go ahead and just post both of them. But I'm going to try and make this, I'm going to try and also make football content on this channel. I know it's primarily a Pokemon channel, but I love football. I love sports in general. And I always do mock drafts, and I pay attention to the draft and stuff like that, and I play fantasy football every single year. So I'm also going to try and just kind of make separate football content and put it under a separate tab on this channel as well. And let me know if that's something that you would enjoy watching, because I have a lot of fun doing this. But yeah, that's going to be it for round one. Stay tuned for round two. Let me know what I did that you think is dumb, what you would have done differently, what you have differently, what picks you would have done, what trades you would have done, anything like that. But stay tuned until the next video. Peace.